Welcome to White Guys for Kamala. I'm your host, John Ennis. My guest today is Cliff Schecter, author, campaign strategist, and host of Cliff's Edge on YouTube, which has far more subscribers than we do right now. So thank you for making
I probably put a lot more time into it because I've been working hard on this thing. I have to say, it's not it hasn't come easily, but once you start feeding that algorithm, as we all are living algorithms these days, it
Yeah.
likes you.
Yeah. Well,
So if you want, when we get off air, I can even give you some advice because I've learned some things about how to make the algorithm like you more.
good. Thanks. I'll take you up on. Yeah, it's been weird trying to start a show since the campaign started like 3 months ago,
Yeah.
and then try to get as much traffic and views as you can in such a short period of time. It's been an intense an intense period.
It
I,
is.
I don't know about you,
And at
but
first, yeah, well, yeah, everything has been intense. I mean, at first I was only doing it, very, very part-time. I was putting up a couple things a week, and I realized that it was growing, but I was never going to grow to where I wanted to grow, or to have the influence I wanted to have, and to actually be able to make it financially viable so I could give up some of my PR work and other stuff to really, because I love this more, talking to people, whether it be you or even, I do these live streams now where I love just having people ask me questions and give
that's
comments
great.
and just talking to everyday people about what the hell's going on out there, because it's crazy, and how the hell we got to this point where this, I think I just said in a video, I believe I made it up off the top of my head, this Oompa Loompa who looks like he dipped his face the other day in carrot cake, and could not even walk straight and almost fell over trying to grab the handle of a truck, could not read correctly from a teleprompter, and could not talk correctly later when he tried doing that and make any sense. And I'm not even getting into convict, rapist, traitor, Putinite, all the rest of it. How we're at this point. And I think, I try to tell people, explain the role that our media has played, the horrific role they've played in doing the opposite of what they're supposed to do,
Yeah.
at least according to the First Amendment, which is give people the truth and the facts so they can figure things out. They try to make everything seem the same. So most people who don't have time, who work two jobs and commute and all that, and have a couple kids, whatever, maybe you'll see some chyrons and some headlines to papers. And if those don't convey the truth, if those use, sanitized language, if they sane wash them, as the word now is, then people don't get it. And I think a lot of people, there'll be a good 10% at least of Trump's voters will be people that, if they knew everything about him or even half the things about him, would not vote for him.
Yeah,
Because
well,
I've run
it's
across a couple of them that when I've
yeah.
informed them, they've been horrified and they had no idea. And then, there's the other factors, right? Our electoral college and this and that, and the way the other side suppresses votes. You've certainly done great work on that here in Ohio. And, but then there's the other side of, I'll say quickly, I've loved Kamala's campaign for the, like almost every aspect of it,
Yes.
as well as our new Senate candidates. A lot of our Senate, the young, like, it's not to say anything terrible, but I find myself repeating this, like the oldest generation there. Joe Biden will have ended up having, I think, will definitively a top 10 presidency in terms of accomplishments.
Yeah.
Amazing. In one term, what he accomplished with the
Yeah.
infrastructure bill, gun control legislation, I mean, also, the getting shots in arms to begin with COVID, with the stimulus bill, some of those to complete Republican opposition. And some of those where we brought Republicans in knowing that they needed it was in their own self-interest. Like I can say, sitting right here in Cincinnati, we had two bridges between us and Northern Kentucky falling down. Mitch McConnell did not want his constituents dying. He doesn't give a crap unless it affects him politically or whatever. So there was an interest in that infrastructure bill from McConnell and others like him who, and Biden found that. So he was great. Nancy Pelosi will be in any Mount Rushmore of speakers, legislatively, one of the most brilliant minds ever to walk into the House. But the problem is these people are in what I like to call, a lot of them, the Reagan crouch, which was they're still living in the 80s and early 90s, where Reagan was the most popular politician, and a lot of conservative policies were popular, and we were supposed to be the nice and responsible ones. The right got to be the ones who were obnoxious and rude and whatever. And the thing is, shockingly, as conservatives always say, right? There need to be consequences. There are some things conservatives actually get right here and there that we agree with them on. Well, there were no consequences to Newt Gingrich's actions, so we got Sarah Palin and the Tea Party. There was no consequences to that, the law breaking and the insanity there. So we got Donald Trump, and Mitch McConnell paved the whole way by stealing Supreme Court seats and other things. So I mean, we in a lot of that during a lot of time, Democrats did not fight back. The media wouldn't do its job, and Democrats would always say, you put a mic in front of them and say, "What do you think about that?" Like, well, that's just shameful. That's below the office. What does that do? How does that help us at all? Instead of Mitch McConnell will not allow somebody to become a Supreme Court justice or even get a hearing. Instead of saying that's shameful, how about saying, well, Mitch McConnell obviously doesn't believe in the Constitution. He's un-American. He's fighting against the very system that our founders set up to make sure that we always have a Supreme Court that is full and is active and it's one of the most important roles in the country. And he's cheating and lying to get his way. Whatever. That's off the top of my head. I'm sure it could be wordsmithed better. But you suddenly started getting these Democrats, Eric Swalwell and Jasmine Crockett, and Gretchen Whitmer and Gavin Newsom, and I would call from kind of the middle of Gen X down, the ones that were, because I'm a middle of the pack Gen Xer, and I'm old enough to remember Reagan, but his presidency didn't have an impact on me, and it did, but not in the terms of me thinking, oh my God, he's a political god and we must bow before him. Clinton had a much stronger impact on me, where we had the charismatic guy.
Yeah.
For Clinton's faults, and I'm not saying he didn't have them, but he certainly got a lot done legislatively with hostile Republicans trying to impeach him, and so now those folks are taking over, and that's what Kamala represented, and that's what someone like Colin Allred represents, which is why I think we're going to win in Texas. That and turnout numbers and some other things. I think Allred's going to beat Cruz.
Wow, that's great.
I'm willing to take that plunge and make that prediction. Just again, based on fundamentals, not based on my dream and my wish. Our turnout operation is far better than theirs. Ted Cruz is universally hated. He'll lose a couple percent of Republicans or more because they don't like him. Allred is uniquely charismatic and all that. So, I have reasons for the things I pick, and it tends to be I base it on as much knowledge as I can. But point being, we have so much better candidates now. We're so much better at controlling the narrative, forcing the media to talk about things by saying things that we used to be too scared to say, like Donald Trump's a fascist, Donald Trump is unfit, Donald Trump clearly is having cognitive issues. The rest of the things that Democrats, that was below us, we wouldn't say that. You've got all sorts of Democrats saying that. When Jim Jordan and James Comer lie in committee, you've got Jared Moskowitz mocking them. You've got Jamie Raskin laughing at them and pointing out how stupid they are. We've changed. The culture of the party has changed, and that's been huge.
Let me ask you something. We started this podcast to start to speak to the white men that are largely disaffected and, letting all this bounce off them like a pinball bumper. Why do you think white men are the way they are?
Oh, do you have a couple hours? In all seriousness, it's funny that you're doing this because I was just interviewed by The Guardian and I spoke to them, and they came out here to find white men for Kamala. And so I spoke to them for this video they did. We were talking about some of these same themes. I don't think it's unique to white men. I hate to say it. I mean, there is a reason why. First of all, young men in general are stupid. I'm sorry. I was a young man once. Okay. And stupid probably isn't the right term for it, but we were immature. Okay. As a young man, you feel like you need to prove your toughness, prove your masculinity. Yeah. And you're taught all the wrong lessons about what that is. It's chest puffing bravado. Maybe it's crying and showing actually that you have emotions and feelings. Maybe it's showing love for somebody, the stuff that's tougher to do, that's not societally as acceptable. Maybe that's what being strong is, right? Maybe being able to take criticism and not be such a wimp like Donald Trump that you can never admit you're wrong, And I think we were taught all these wrong lessons about it. And so, and that's even young men today, it's gotten better, but I think a lot of them, so that's part of it. But part of it is a lot of young men are caught in places where there used to be, especially in the Midwest, but really all over the country, where there used to be, a couple of factories, a couple of big companies in town. You got your high school diploma, you got your job. I mean, listen to like Allentown by Billy Joel or something. And you
Yeah.
get and you were set up with a job that had good benefits and you could take vacations and one income could pay for the house. Well, a lot of Democrats collaborated in destroying some of that system. We signed on to some free trade deals too easily without the kinds of requirements that should have been in there. And without, we should, in my opinion, should be free trading, but with countries that are similar to us. When you free trade with authoritarian countries, they can cheat, obviously, right? So but the Republicans led the charge on all of these things, right? They're the ones who won't raise the minimum wage. They're the ones who won't pass, paid family and medical leave, 80% plus popularity, right? And things that would make young men's lives, if they're married, young, don't have a college degree, better.
Hmm.
Okay. Um, and then you add on top of that, so the jobs have left town. There's opioids everywhere. They're depressed, and you start getting this situation where in a lot of these rural communities, the life expectancy is going down. But they've been told to blame the wrong people. They've been told that it's the guys that look different than you who are responsible, not the ones who purposely cut your benefits so that they can give themselves that extra yacht. And
Right.
our culture used to be that CEOs, were expected, those alive during the Great Depression or whatever, like they wouldn't make 1,000 times what their workers made. They'd be embarrassed. It would be considered gross. But the kind of culture that Donald Trump came out of, the kind of sort of braggadocio, reality TV culture has changed a lot of that. And I think that mixing with sort of young men not knowing their place. But I'd argue the reason why I'd argue it's not just white men. First of all, there's been a reason that Trump has purposely gone after Latino and black men. Now
Yes.
they're not as susceptible. They're not in the majority, and they feel a lot of the discrimination that white men don't feel. But they're young men still, and he's been able to successfully win a couple percent more of each of those groups for that reason. So it's something that young men go through. But I'd add also the reason why I say it's not just white men is not just because of that, but it's whoever the majority is in any country, right? Who suddenly feels like something's been taken away from them. If you're a
Hmm.
majority Arabic country and there's a minority in your country that is suddenly sort of taking something, they're immigrating there, and you feel like they're taking something from you, and your anger is directed at them, you'll act the same way. So sadly, I just think young men, you're not educated enough yet. You got a lot of testosterone floating around, you got a lot of need to prove yourself, and all of that is when you've got demagogues lying to you, can be a really nasty group. Is the best thing I can say.
Yeah. And that's
Explain it.
a demographic that we've seen, younger men in particular. That's like one of the few upticks for Trump out of all the other demographics. And
Mm-hmm.
we're seeing Republicans that are openly, I've never seen so many people from one party saying that they're going to vote for the other party's candidate before. I don't think that's ever happened in my life. It's happened
No,
way too much already to, I mean, it's going to be, it should be, I think it might be a blowout. I don't know about you, but where do you think
I
it's
mean,
going?
I am expecting. The way I put it is this: if we had a functional media that every day described the differences, like I actually saw headlines from the Boston Globe and the Las Vegas Sun, second one being even more important because where it's located
Right.
in a swing state, saying that Trump is cognitively impaired and they do not think he can do the job based on some of the recent things he said and done and whatever. Oh my God, to see that in the headlines, like where was that 6 months ago? Where was that the last 8 years? So the media overall has gotten a lot better the last few months. I think some of us pressuring them and attacking them, places
Every
like
day.
Twitter, I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
I do. I mean, I constantly do because they get
Constantly.
me
Yeah.
so
We're on
angry.
threads. Yeah. We're
Yep.
punching in
So,
every
so
day.
that's right. So, I mean, that's part of it. But part of it, I think, is as he's gotten worse, they've maybe even felt a need.
Hmm.
But the point is that it would be a LBJ, 64 or Nixon 72 or Reagan 84 style blowout if everybody had the correct information. What
Hmm.
I'm thinking it's going to be is more like Clinton, somewhere between Obama '08 and Clinton '96. Obama won by about 7.5 points. Clinton won by about 9.5 or whatever. I think so. I think it's going to be a solid thumping. You could maybe call that a blowout, but an absolute solid thumping. And I think that Kamala Harris wins all of the turnout differential. Again, it's not just the numbers we're already seeing. More women are turning out and early turnout, all that sort of stuff. But on top of all of that, they, of course, the grifters there took apart their turnout operation, fired all the people that knew anything, and handed it over to Elon Musk and Charlie Kirk. Always a brilliant idea. We put 200 million. I don't remember what it was. Like Kamala Harris's operation gave, not only are they doing their own stuff through the DNC and everything, they gave 25 million to each Senate race through the DSCC, the Democratic Central Campaign Committee, that was competitive, and $2.5 million to every state party. That includes Idaho, Alabama, whatever, just for turnout. Well, in the end, and hired people that know what they're doing. All the best people that have been doing this stuff the last 30 years since Bill Clinton essentially came in, right? For Clinton, for Obama, for Biden, So, I mean, that kind of a turnout disparity with one side, best practices, investing heavily, the other side having some goofball that bought Twitter for 44 billion when it's now and now it's worth about 8 and goes around jumping up in the air, like he's Tom Cruise on a sofa on the Today Show. I mean, I feel pretty good that that's going to add 3 or 4 or 5 points to our total. There's the Dobbs effect where, if you've been a pollster, that a lot of the women who are incredibly angry, I know this, I did polling. First question, are you 18 years old and registered to vote? If you're not either of those things, we're done talking. Second question, it just as important. Have you voted in the previous 2 elections? If you have not, tossed. And that's where a lot of women, and that's changing now after Dobbs, who had not voted, were just excluded from these polls, not to mention Gen Z, who they can't even figure out how to reach, right? They're calling their cell phone, they won't answer. So, I mean, their polls are screwed. And then you get right-wingers like Rasmussen and Trafalgar and all those guys doing what they did in 2022. Remember Red Wave? Yeah, that happened. Where they put out all these bullshit polls sorry, I hope that I can curse on your thing.
Yes.
That they're meant to skew the averages and make Trump people feel better about themselves and whatever. So you add the fact that the polling isn't accurate to begin with, that we're gonna have people turn out who the polls can't even reach, and that we're gonna have so much better of a turnout operation. I'm saying every swing state, including North Carolina, and I'm saying I think out of Florida, Ohio, and Texas, we win at least 1, maybe 2.
Wow.
Ohio will be the toughest. It is the furthest apart. And when they did a poll here about 2 months ago, they were so shocked by the results, because from what I hear, it was basically tied, that they started heavily advertising here. Wow. And Kamala's people responded with some ads. Yeah, so we didn't even get this cycle off. We did for some of it. Mm-hmm. Luckily, I don't watch regular TV for the most part, so I've been okay. I can skip through when I watch my shows. When I'm watching old episodes of True Detective, skip on my laptop, skip right through. So in the end, I do think, I hate to say it, I think Sherrod wins, which is awesome. But I think they may hold on here by 3 points or so, just because they've slammed us with all this advertising and we responded, but not anything close. Like Kamala did put some stuff up here, but Florida, you're looking at them opening the Puerto Ricans attack. There's 1 million voting Puerto Ricans in Florida. The weakness of Rick Scott, who just to dump $1.5 million back into the race in the last couple of days after dumping 10 million more into the race the last 2 weeks. We've got a very good candidate there in Debbie Mercazzo-Powell. Then you add in, the signs. You always look for
Haitians. Haitians are big in Florida.
Yes, huge Haitian population. That's going to matter too. You look at Kamala Harris 17 days before an election, spending the time and money to open a turnout office in Tallahassee. You don't do that unless you think you have a chance at winning. And then I add in holding that concert with Beyonce, that effort in Houston. And people were like, well, she's from Houston. And I have a pretty easy and quick response to that, which is, did they hold the rally with Bruce Springsteen at the Stone Pony? No, they didn't, did they? He was in Georgia because that's a swing state. He was in Atlanta. They didn't. It was a bonus that Beyonce was from there, I'm sure. But it was held in a state for obvious reasons they think they have a chance at.
Yeah.
So
it was a hell of an event too.
Yeah, it's huge. So
that's one thing I'd love to get your opinion on. I think the stagecraft for the Harris campaign has been top notch this entire time, from launch to the last remarks. I think J-Lo was speaking today. All the cameras, all the commercials, the coverage, the web posts. Forget about the Kamala HQ viral ads. Oh my God.
The viral stuff, the mocking him. Yeah. The debate, I have a hard time being, I mean, this is, I told people even, a month or two ago, and it's continued apace, that this was my dream. I've been dreaming of this for 30 years,
Yeah.
of a Democratic operation run like this that controls the narrative, puts them on the defensive, mocks them mercilessly to drive, realizing that politics is psychological warfare. People who have actually read their Sun Tzu and know the ways you fight a battle, and gotten the other side to lose their shit, and like we've done. The just the little jibes they put out in their press releases about Trump seeming confused. I mean, all these little things just to mess with him and mess with them, where they've invested resources and her time, the manner in which she chose a vice president was done so professionally, chose somebody great, gets along with him great. He's got this folksiness where he's terrific on the trail. I mean, I have a hard time criticizing him. If I were to say anything, is I wish more often, maybe when they got up on the mic, they would repeat that he's a convict and that he's a traitor who tried to overthrow the government.
Yeah.
I would, because people know that, but I think, and she did say it during the debate, which was important, and she has brought it up at times. But I wish that especially in women's crowds, he's an adjudicated rapist in a civil court. I wish that they would repeat that more often at rallies. If I had any criticism of them, and that's really searching because it's been so good what they've done.
Yeah. Well, I'll be looking forward to it. Where are you going to watch returns on Tuesday?
I'm not sure yet. I've been invited by a few people to either co-live stream with them, join a live stream. I've been invited to go. We have the hotel here where some folks will be. I'm not sure exactly, who's going to be there exactly yet. So I could go with the Ohio coterie, but I think, I used to do that stuff when I was younger. I'm a middle-aged suburban dad now. I got teenagers. I want to be with my family. I'll probably do it at home, and I'll join a couple different live streams for little periods of time here and there. Maybe do my own for 15, 20 minutes at my channel also, just to kind of tell people what I'm thinking. But it's something like that.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for taking the time. I really appreciate it. And it's really exciting. I know it's hard to think of anything else, even when my city's just won the World Series and the parade.
That's just not nice right now. There. Especially when I'm a Yankees fan. That's cold. What that is. And you know what? I don't even mind. I'm actually okay with it. I'm just going to make you feel bad. Seeing tears in my just turned 15-year-old's eyes. That's what got me.
Oh,
that upset me. I'll remind you and others. I've seen the Yankees win 7 World Series while I've been alive.
Of course.
Been there, done it. I wanted to win, and you guys, I think, were slightly better than us, but we beat ourselves because we decided to keep Aaron Boone as a manager, who's been it's been obvious, USC guy, by the way. It's been obvious forever that Aaron Boone is not up to the job, and chose a guy who hadn't pitched for a month instead of a killer lefty reliever to pitch to Freddie Freeman in game 1, and we imploded in game 5 because, again, there's no discipline instilled in the team.
That's right.
So yeah, you might have beaten us. I think you would, maybe beat us 4-3. I think it would have been close, but we found a way to do it sooner for you. So if we could do that service for you, that was nice of us.
That was, I appreciate it. So, thanks for taking the time. And
seriously, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.